We're back, YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I appreciate that. Today, let's review Beyond Two Souls for PlayStation 4. And if I was really cynical, I'd say this is a 15-hour-long interactive cutscene.
A gift. A link with an entity.
An entity? You mean a ghost or something like that?
Oh, this is gonna sound really crazy, but it's kind of like an invisible presence that follows me.
And there is some truth in that statement. I mean, really, this is a game, or is it a game, actually? Or is it an interactive movie? At least it's something that David Cage, the producer, is very good at. He sort of carved out a niche between the movie and in the gaming industry. And he did that before with games like Fahrenheit and Heavy Rain, games that I really enjoyed because of the great story. But the biggest problem I have with Beyond is that it doesn't offer anything particularly new than those games. Only the stakes are higher, the production values are higher, because this is a game from 2013, but it still holds up very well in that aspect. Actors Ellen Page and William Dafoe were motion captured, and their likenesses and voices were used for the main characters. And that's a really interesting thing. In 2013, that wasn't really like a general thing. And nowadays, you see games coming out with these actors being portrayed as characters in the game. So in that way, I think that Beyond was somewhat beyond its time, so to speak. So it's still very impressive to look at. You know, it looks clear and detailed and crisp, and Beyond has a great soundtrack. So a lot of money was spent on looks and how it feels. And what I also liked is that this game is sort of structured in different scenes or episodes, so you will, which work really well. I mean, it's sort of self-contained and will take you around 20 to 30 or 40 minutes to finish each episode. So it's great to kick back at night and just do one or two of these episodes and then do some more in the next evening. At least that's how I played this game. But the biggest problem I have with this game is that the story just isn't that interesting for me. I found it very hard to identify myself with Jodie, the central character of this game. She is paranormal gifted. She has this entity that's always connected to her, and that is sort of a separate character. How would I explain? It's not a very realistic narrative. I mean, Jodie seems to be constantly depressed and isn't a very likable character. The things that are happening to her are so unlikely. She gets abandoned by her parents. She gets locked up in this facility. She gets recruited by the CIA. She runs from the CIA. She becomes homeless. All these things happening. I mean, it's entertaining, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that it's a very good narrative. It's all over the place. And especially the character of Jodie, again, she isn't very likable. And I know where she's coming from. I mean, she has a bad childhood, and she wasn't liked by other people, etc., etc. I get that. I get that point. But I do think that this could have been way better. Her character could have been more interesting. Think of Ellie in The Last of Us. It is possible, I think, to make a female lead interesting, both vulnerable and equally strong. But in this game, it's just not like that. And also the side characters, you don't get to spend a lot of time with to actually start caring for them. And again, the story of Jodie takes cues from teen dramas and paranormal and horror movies and sci-fi movies. It's a mess, really. And it doesn't feel like it has an original bone in its body. And it gets sillier and sillier as it goes, and to the point where it becomes rather cringe-worthy.
I know it's hard leaving your home and your family, but here we have a better chance of understanding what's happening. We can find a way to protect you.
And the pacing of this game is also way off. It switches back and forth between the past and the present. It's not well told. I mean, you can replay it in the normal order from the past to the present, in the logical order, so to speak. But it seems like the switching of episodes all the time is just done for the heck of it. I don't even know why. And most of these like past episodes are the least interesting mostly because of the stuff you'll be doing in those episodes. It's more exposition, and it's just very slow moving and kind of boring. I mean, there are also action-packed sequences. They're really fun to watch, but it really boils down to the things that you actually do in this game. The gameplay, right? Now, controlling Jodie through a scene can be very sluggish and clumsy, because the game rather opts for a cinematic camera angle rather than a convenient one, so you get the good view of the whole scene, so to speak. And there's a lot of mundane things you need to be doing, like opening doors and sitting down and getting up and pouring a drink, and all those things just don't make for fun gameplay, I think. I do think it's a neat idea that you can control this entity, where I talked about, right? The entity that's connected to Jodie. With the entity, you sort of fly through these scenes, and at certain points you can interact with the environments. And that's pretty cool at first, but it gets sort of repetitive after like 10 hours or so. You get to choose certain reactions from Jodie.
Tell him what to do.
During dialogue. You just push a button, but that doesn't really make for immersive interaction or fun gameplay, I think. The action scenes are, again, very great to look at. Some really nice, really great set pieces. And you need to move the right analog stick in sync with the movements of Jodie. And this relies heavily on your reaction speed, and it can be frustrating if you are somewhat slower in your reactions, like many people are. Or at times it's not always clear what movements you should make, and so you fail. So that will result in a turn of events that you just didn't want. And that just doesn't feel right at times, because it's not always your fault. And because of that, you also get effectively blocked out of content because you didn't press the right button at the right time. So that's kind of silly. But you won't miss that much, because the overall story will progress nonetheless, making you feel that your actions, in the end, have no real meaning. It's just a linear story. And this could have been different, I think. I know that the producer, David Cage, cannot make like all kinds of different movies all at once and then mix them together in one and have all kinds of branching paths. That's just not doable. But this has been done better, where you just effectively have an impact on the story somehow. But there is none in the end. There is really none. You know, it's not choose your own adventure type of thing, which would be really nice. I think there are possibilities with the current technology to create such a game where the player has more to say about the outcome of the story. So yeah, overall, I can live with the interactive bits being repetitive and ultimately meaningless if only the story was great. But in my opinion, it just isn't. It's entertaining throughout. Just leave your brain at the door. That's my advice. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.
Hide in your back. Hurry. Hurry.